first things first is I have a little gift for you. If you look down in your dashboard on handouts, I have provided a handout. Now, this is a handout that is exactly what I just submit to Agent at Home. Do any of you subscribe to Agent at Home magazine? I write for them. I have been writing for them for many, many years. I am in the every other month edition, and this will appear next. And for those of you in boot camp, you probably have heard me talk about these subjects a lot. It's about pretty much why you're not getting all the groups and what you can do to get more groups. And of course, it could be 5 pages long, but I'm limited to 500 words. So please be sure, take a look at that PDF, whether you're a boot camper or my guest today. Go ahead and download it. It should be easy. Just click and download. And if it's a problem, let me know. I'm happy to email it. So I want to let you know about that. Lena is back. Lena, are you back in town? You were in Portugal, and I saw your magnificent photos on Facebook. So welcome back. Lena is here. I'm so glad you're here. And we're going to get right to it with some information to kick off as you guys start writing your questions in. I'm also going to check my texts, and that was not from one of you guys, because I also will take your questions and queries and comments via text. My cell phone number, if you need it, area code 631-877-9080, 631-877-9080. I want to first share with you an experience of loyalty, something that you can do in your business. See, I love it, and I would imagine you guys do too, because it's one thing that you guys are your own business owner, or you work for a company, but the bottom line is you are in the business of showing people a good time, but even more so, making sure that you take their experience from good to better to great, right? To take people from good to great. Because if you don't take their experience from good to great, they don't need you. They can just book their vacation or their incentive or their family reunion, whatever it is, or their business, whatever it is, they'll do it online or with somebody else. So if you're not taking your people from good to great, then it's going to catch up with you. You're going to have high turnover, meaning people are going to say, I don't need to rebook with this guy because he did nothing special. So here's an example. I love when I find a local business that does something special. You ever get a call from a restaurant confirming your reservation? I bet you have. Well, I get those calls all the time because we love going out. We have date night just about every weekend, and most of the calls sound like this. Hi, this is Megan from Such Restaurant. We want to make sure you're coming on Saturday night at 7. Table for 2. Yes, we'll be there. Great. Thank you. Bye. Over. Wow. And sometimes I feel like it's mom calling saying, dinner's being served at 7. Please be on time. Like I'm being threatened. Really, I feel like I'm being threatened. They're calling to confirm. Don't even think of not showing up, let alone showing up on time, because we're holding a table for you. Now, I don't care how big, how popular the restaurants are, but I don't like it when I feel threatened. I'm giving you my business. So for years I've been saying that the restaurants, so many, are missing out on an opportunity to create loyal customers. So I got a phone call this week from a brand new, it's about a year-old restaurant here in Memphis called The Kitchen Bistro. And the chef I got to meet because he is the nephew of a very, very good friend of mine. But that had nothing to do with it. When I made the reservation, they had no idea. You know, I don't name drop till I get there. In any case, I got the phone call. And instead of just saying, we're holding a table for 4 at Saturday at 7:30, are you coming? They said, hi, this is Megan from the Kitchen Bistro. We're so excited you're going to be with us on Saturday at 7:30. Want to make sure your plans have not changed. And I said, no, we'll be there. And here is the next bit of magic. Are you coming to celebrate anything special with us? Now, in this particular case, we were going out with another couple. We were not. So I said no, but thanks for asking. But a couple of weeks before, my wife and I, we were celebrating our 4-year anniversary, and I said yes. And they did something a little special for us. The bottom line, friends, was that they turned what could have been an unremarkable or a remarkably bad experience, and they made it special. They made me feel special and excited that I'm coming to eat at their restaurant. And no matter what business we're in, we can do those things. So I ask you to think, out of all the communications that you have with your clients, the littlest ones that sometimes are just sort of part of the process, that they're typically nothing special. You sort of go through the motions. What can you do in your everyday business to give something small, to give it lift, to take something, a small, what could have been meaningless experience, and changing it from good to great? So it adds to the value of the experience. People get excited. They talk about you when they show up to talk to you about their trip, or they go on the trip. It just adds to the whole experience. Remember, I said before, and then we'll move on, that it's your job to take their vacation experience from good to great. But guess what? Why would you only limit it to the vacation? Because for the most part, you have to depend on the brand, the supplier, to deliver the wow, to deliver great. And of course, in groups, you never sell the bare bones, stripped down off the shelf package. You want to sell the more inclusive package, because you're going to take it from good to great. But why not pre-trip? All of your communications that sometimes are meaningless and unremarkable and just part of the process, and take something small and make it big. So I just wanted to lay that on you, because it was something small, but it made a big difference. All right, we're checking the boards just to see if we have any comments or questions here. Otherwise, I've got a whole load of stuff here, and Hyacinth, I know you're here. We're going to talk about a little bit about your opportunity. I don't know if you have any more thoughts, if you've done anything since we've last talked. I've got 2 different comments here from 2 different Nancys, and we're going to try to talk about throw out some tips about escorting, especially my experience escorting my river cruise group. Plus, when I worked for the cruise lines, and Hans, I don't know if you know this, I don't know if you guys will know this, but I worked for Costa many, many years ago, then Princess. But I spent a longer time at Celebrity. And I would, back in the day also, I would escort quite a few fam trips, for instance. And then for this river cruise, this was a partial ship charter. So I want to share some stuff there. So Nancy is starting off with a question. Here we go. Thank you, Nancy. My question is about asking for help and in turn going from good to great. I'm considering have a friend help me with outreach to get more groups, towns around Portland that she can visit. How do I manage the time to train her? Can she take the group launch sequence course too? Group launch sequence is, for those of you who don't know, it's in group boot camp. It's the absolute opposite way of how to promote a group. Everything that you've been taught by the suppliers and brands, you can throw out the window. This is what we call the opposite inside-out approach to marketing a group so that you can sell up and sell out faster. Or should I just have her follow me to a few meetings? So, Nancy, that's a great question. Now, I don't know if your friend has any travel background or travel experience. Okay, thanks for the extra thing, Nancy. Town centers and senior centers going to visit. And frankly, whether she has travel experience or not, I would say is irrelevant. But, Nancy, here's what I would say. The most important thing you want your friend, if you bring this friend in, and you want her to go out and scout, right? Kind of like a scouting mission to uncover new business, is that her job is not to sell. She's not a salesperson. Her job, number one, is to get in the door. We've talked about this a lot, about how to get in the door, right? You know, making a real ice cold call is really hard, but you've got to show interest in them, and there are 5 or 6 ways I've taught that you can get in the door, right? If you want me to review them, I will. But the whole idea about getting in the door is to make friends. And how do you make friends? You ask questions. And I'm going to use a strong word here. Instead of going into a sales call, if you will, we'll call it a sales call. But you can't make it a sales call. You're going in to make friends. Okay. You want to make friends, and you want to be interested in them. Show interest in them as a person or in their business. Ask questions. Because you don't want to go in, here's the word, bloviating. It's such a good word. You guys know what bloviate means? Wow, 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 wow. Because if you bloviate, that person will be more than likely to say, hey, I gotta go. You're just trying to sell me something, and you're nothing more than, you're just like all the other thousands of salespeople who call me every day. And the mission, Nancy, and everybody else here, whether you're going to hire somebody or partner with somebody to go out to see if you can uncover new group opportunities, get in the door. Get in the door by making friends and asking high mileage questions, and not bloviating, but to see if they've got a problem. So Nancy, this is the kicker right here. See if they've got a problem with their organization, with their business, and can group travel be the resolution? And understand, I don't think you need to train her in any more capacity, Nancy, because you don't want her going in talking about group travel and selling trips. It's one thing if that person says, oh, tell me about you. What do you do? Yes, you want her well trained and prepared, but you want that to sound professional, well practiced, an elevator speech, but you don't want the person sitting on the other side of that desk to feel threatened that they're selling something. What kind of a problem could they uncover? Well, if it's a senior center, you said you specifically want to focus on town centers and senior centers. I would go in and say you want to ask questions like, do the folks here, are they culture oriented? Do you have many people come in to do presentations about different destinations and different cultures? And again, Nancy, I don't know if you have you do have a specialty. I know you do have a special niche in travel, because if you can find a town center or senior center where they have interest in what your passion is, then perhaps that's when you say, hey, we'll come in and we'll do a nice presentation about it. I've been there so many times to this place, this destination, and can talk to it and answer questions. So a problem could be they want entertainment, they want education. They want to bring in qualified people to come talk about their passion, their trade. And it could lead to group travel, but especially if you can ask questions like, does anybody, any of your residents, do they ever celebrate special events, travel? Do they go out and about? Things like that. Do they ever do this? Do they have their own passions and they travel to Europe or South America, or did they do bus trips? What do they do? Do they ever leave here? Where do they go? And maybe they'll say yes, and you want to ask, really, where have they gone? What have they done? Do they enjoy it? And if they've said, no, we've never done something like that, but we've been thinking about it, ding, 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 light bulb, but make sure you tell your friend, your partner, not to, jump right away and say, oh, we could do this, we could do this, we could do this. Just say, oh, really? That's interesting, because I have some ideas, but why don't we set up another meeting for another time? Would you mind if I come back with some ideas? And they might say, sure. And then you can ask more questions so that you go back the next meeting, and you don't want to make a full presentation, but do more qualifying. Where the people may like to go, where they have talked about. Are there any special niches that you can uncover there? And the bottom line is, will group travel be a solution to their problem? Nancy, does that help? You know, I know sometimes people ask questions and they want a hard, fast, do this, do this. And I try to give you guys that. Do this. And I'm telling you the truth. And I gave you the example last time. Real quick, I had a meeting with the Memphis Convention and Visitors Bureau, the chief marketing officer, the #2 person in the company, because I went in to present my idea to do a group boot camp here in Memphis / fam trip. Before I started selling, I engaged in conversation, asked questions, and guess what? She revealed her problem. She needed a speaker for the annual convention, for the Convention and Visitors Bureau annual convention. Am I interested? So I put my folder to the side because I went in with an agenda that we never even talked about. I ended up solving her problem and still getting business from her. They hired me to do their keynote at the June convention. So sometimes we go in trying to sell something, it's not what they need. So find out what they need, what's their problem, and then come back with the solution. Let me look at the boards here, see if this makes any sense to anybody. Has anybody ever done this? Gina says, Nancy, great idea. How are you going to compensate this person? That's what Gina is asking. So Gina, I know you guys can't see each other's questions. I don't understand why GoToWebinar doesn't give that technology, but how are you going to compensate that person? Gina asking Nancy. So while you guys respond to that, and while you type in your own questions, I want to hear what's working, what's not. I want to hear, did you just watch something, Tina, in group boot camp, because this is your first weekend. I think you've just started your second, and I thank you for completing the questionnaire, that little form, what your big aha, your big takeaway moments are. So please do share. I love talking about that stuff. I want to address this question, which is about, I got an email from an agent. I'm not going to reveal who it is, but this person who I met at a recent event said that they have said they wanted me to take a look at a spreadsheet that they had created to see if it made sense. Because folks, you need to create a spreadsheet. Not count on your fingers and not doing it on a sheet of paper, but I hope you can use Excel or whatever you may use so you calculate your profits. Because remember, I encourage you to net everything down and then mark everything up, especially because you're going to be packaging and creating a more inclusive package, so you control your margin. You control your profits, and you can figure out how it's best priced, because you can create, oh, let me see, I'll give myself a 20% commission. I'll give myself a 30% commission. You can see what that looks like on a spreadsheet. Okay. But she wrote, and I quote here, because I questioned the TCs, I'm probably going to comp the group leader and one of her employees. Now, let me say that again. Probably going to comp the group leader one. Now, I didn't drill down on this and ask her more because it was an email conversation. And Nancy, if you're on, I love you. This is with all due respect, but I'm stuck on the word probably. Why would it be probably? Are you going to do it out of the goodness of your heart, which means that you're giving away the TC that's rightfully yours? They don't own that. It's your group. Remember, the TC is nobody else's business but yours. Do you have a group agreement letter? Now, Tina, you're new in boot camp. I think the group agreement letter is in week 2, because I warn you never to get into the group business, to make a deal with a group leader and a group without a signed group agreement letter. And in this group agreement letter, part 5, because there are 6 key components, part 5 is the incentive program. I'm a big believer in incentives to make the group leader and the group work harder, but they have to earn it. So when I see the word probably, I get nervous because, man, do these people even know they're going to get it? Were they leveraged? Were they incentivized? Is that a word? To work harder, to earn, to achieve it? Or are you just making it a gimme? That's why it drives me crazy when today I still see travel professionals out there saying, ask me how to travel free. Ask me how to travel free. No. Guess what? Their only mission will be to travel free. That's all they're going to care about. You want a group leader whose #1 mission is to have a successful group. And if they require a freebie or a discounted stateroom or whatever, then you build it into the agreement as a special incentive. It's an incentive. It's just like somebody who works for a company, and they're a salesperson. When I worked for the cruise lines, I had an incentive. The more I sold, and if I hit certain tiers, a specifically outlined tier level, then I earn. And there was always a stretch goal too. So why would it ever be? Probably it is either they've earned it, they're going to get the comp, and you have to define what comp means, obviously, or I'm going to do great because we exceeded our numbers and I'm going to earn an extra TC. So I just want to put that out there. Let me check the boards, and I'm going to, if not, I'm going to keep running down my list here of stuff. Nancy said, yes, good question. So Nancy, she's answering you. Gina, good question on how to compensate my friend. She suggested that a group goes, perhaps she could escort and be able to go on these tours, day trips, etc. as reimbursement. I think that's great. I think that's wonderful. If that's what's going to please her and make her happy, Nancy, I think that's a great rate to reward, especially if she's the one sitting in the seat, getting in the door, making new friends, understanding what their problem is, eventually coming up with the solution, group travel, and saying, hey, I go. And listen, and when the company, the organization, or the senior center says, well, I'm not paying for you to go, then you know what the answer is. Don't worry about it. I'm already baked in because you don't want to do this group without me there. I escort all my groups because you can't run the risk of having something go wrong. And especially if that person is going on a trip, right? You ask, are you going to have a good time, or are you going to work your tail off and take on all the stress of running this? Because if you go and I'm not there, you're going to have a lousy time. Let me have the lousy time because it's my job. And don't worry about price because I'm already built in, baked into the price. And that's why, and this touches on escorting before. Hans said, can we talk about that? Why it's so important. So important. But I ain't going to get to that. So let's see if there's any more comments along those lines. Gina says, great idea. Thank you, Nancy. Tina says, I need a little more explanation on the survey you put out to draw interest to start a group. I can email after the session. All right, Tina, so let me just touch on that real quick, and I'm going to continue on here. So basically, Tina, even though, as you know, in boot camp, the materials roll out over a 4-week period. So at the start of each week, over a 4-week period, you have access to it because it would be wrong to overwhelm you with so much information at once. However, you have immediate access to other things too, like Pitch Perfect, like Group Launch Sequence, like all of the 60 or 70 business coaching sessions. But I created what's called Group Launch Sequence, which is the new way, the better way, how to launch a group. Because too many groups just fizzle, they fail, they bomb. And the first part of the sequence is the survey. That's the first part. And the survey is where you're just asking a couple of very, safe questions. Because if you ask questions that sound like you're selling something, that if I answer this survey, that means I'm committing, that I'm interested in something that you're going to, I'm not going to answer it. And my God, we are bombarded with surveys these days, aren't we? Whatever product you buy, there's always the email. Tell us what you think. Tell us what you think. Take this quick survey. And sometimes we want to. Sometimes we don't have time. So you're asking a lot of people. So it's got to be a real innocuous. I better look that up. I don't know what it means. Safe question. And what you're doing there is, Tina, several things. Number one, you're planting the very first seed that you've got something big coming. So you're beginning the marketing process because my plan, Group Launch Sequence, is all about building great momentum before you tell anybody you've got a group for sale and revealing the price, which is what all agents have done historically. And then they market it, and it's too late. So the survey, A, plants the little seed. Something's going on. Number two, you're actually going to get feedback. So for instance, a question could be, if you were on the island of St. Martin, what would be the most important activities you'd want to do? Something just like that. So that you will also get good information and good feedback to help you craft the trip. Part 3 is you're already getting some buy-in. See, when people complete a survey and later in short order when they see that, oh, you are planning a special group trip to St. Martin, they feel like they have contributed. They feel like they have had a say in the event. They have skin in the game. They're part of the process. It makes them feel good. So for those 3 key reasons, I say you start off with the survey. That's part 1. And part 2, just so you know, is save the date. So you take it to the next level, and what you're doing is, Tina, you're building anticipation. You're building expectation. Most of all, you're building motivation. I like when I could come up with words that rhyme. All right. Tell me, Tina, if that makes sense to you. Lena says, I would like to work with suppliers that I have met in Europe who are not preferred suppliers with my host. I know this is a lot more risky, but I love the unique things I can put together. And this is really where my passion is. Any advice on how to stay out of trouble? Lena, that is a great question. And I don't want to get me or you into any kind of legal issue, because when you sign on with a host, number one thing is to go back and look at that contract, because it might say that you can only book these preferred suppliers, or it might say you may book these preferred suppliers, and if you purchase from any other supplier or brand outside this scope, that business is required to also be funneled back through your host, because as your host, we are entitled to whatever, 2%, 10%, whatever it is. So the first thing I would do is look at the agreement that you have with your host, because it really can vary about your freedom or lack thereof. And I'm not putting down hosts at all, because they're providing the resources done, the negotiating done. They're providing great negotiating power for you, usually with much higher commissions, because they're collecting. It's a collection of revenue and buying power, right? And back office support too. So you're willing to give up a little bit out of your profits because they're doing so much for you. That's why we use hosts, right? So that's the first thing I would do. The second thing I would do is, regardless of what that says, is because, you know, I always believe in being honest, of course, but I also believe in, you know, sometimes, oh my gosh, you're getting to see the real me here. Sometimes it's better to ask for forgiveness when you make a little boo-boo, you make a little mistake. But you don't want to upset relationships. You want to do something. You don't want to do something that is going to cause friction, put you on notice that you could be kicked out, expelled from the organization. You know, but sometimes a little boo-boo just to kind of test the systems is okay, because Stu Cohen is not much of a rule follower. Thankfully, I follow the rules I need to, but when it comes to business and stuff like that, I just go for it, you know. But I don't want to hurt other people or other businesses who help me. I believe using smaller local suppliers, Lena, is outstanding, is awesome. And I know that some organizations have a portfolio of DMCs, destination management companies, right? Inbound operators, people who are local, right, that you found in Portugal or wherever, you know, and they love taking care of inbound guests. I think it's terrific you do that, because they're probably, Lena, right, going to get the most localized, personalized experience of all. And you're dealing with a smaller vendor, could be just one person, who could do the private guide, the personal tour. So the other option is to say, hey, host, listen, I was just at this destination. This is my passion. I plan on doing a lot of good business there, and I'm going to book this and this through these preferred suppliers. However, I need to pepper in some, to build my more inclusive package, I need to pepper in some of these local DMCs, these local inbound providers of highly personalized, highly customized local services. With your permission, may I do that? I'll enter them into the system, and they probably will provide a net rate, Lena. They might, so be prepared for that, because you're going to have to work that out with your host of what piece of that they take. So in that case, sometimes you're better off presenting it to them. I hope they would say, yes, that's great. Thanks for being honest and bringing it forward. Put it in the system, and great, because you're still going to do some business with the preferred supplier, but sprinkle in some smaller vendors, because we know how important it is to make the experience from good to great. Because we, the host, we don't have a supplier that does that. That's where it really works, is when you can prove that they don't offer what you need at that level. Does that help? Tell me, does that help? Tina says, and she's following up, that's what I was wanting. Wasn't clear on the type of questions. That helps. You bet. Linda, hey Linda, so do you ask them where they want to go, or if they want to be a group leader, or do I pick the spot? So I assume we're going back to if you go to a senior center, a town center, and you're exploring. Yeah, I would just start off with, you know, saying where does everybody want to go? Where do people really talk about? Where do they dream of going? I mean, do they want beach? Do they want river cruise and have a deeply immersive experience on a river cruise for 2 weeks, land and cruise? Do they want to take up a motor coach trip, a 3 multi-day, whatever motor coach trip? Because sometimes you start there, right? Some of you do great motor coach business, and it's good money, and it can lead to a bigger trip. So they just want to do a Caribbean cruise. They want to do Alaska. Where do they want to go? What does everybody talk about? And maybe the person you're meeting with won't know. And that's why you said, tell you what, let me come in. Let me do a presentation. I'm not coming in to sell anything, but let's see what everybody says. Big smile. See that? Let's make friends with everybody here, your residents here, or the senior center. People are members. Maybe they don't live there, but they're members. And let's see where people want to go. We'll take a poll. We'll take a survey and find out. Because I'm telling you, Linda, if you go in selling your agenda, it usually doesn't work. I cannot even begin to tell you how many agents I know who have had big ideas, especially when it comes to doing like wine cruises, working with local vineyards or wine shops. And they put their big idea in an email and never hear back. Or they meet the owner, let's just say they get in the door, they have their big idea, but the wine shop owner, that's not their problem. They don't want to be saddled with another responsibility. But if it's positioned a different way, if you know that other local business owner, yeah, they love doing wine tastings themselves, they never get a chance to do it, and they want to do a loyalty program, well, there's their problem. And then you can suggest, well, I'll tell you what, let's take your most frequent loyal customers and let's do a trip like that. So you get to practice your craft and really elevate the level of loyalty with your customer base, and who knows, bring in some new customers too who have never shopped at your store. They have to reveal the problem versus you coming in saying, hey, I have a great idea to do a Caribbean cruise and everyone brings their bikes and we go biking. Well, what if that's not my problem? Thank you, no, gotta go, door closes. Hope that helps, Linda. Gina says, had someone approach me to put a group cruise together for them. In the first discovery meeting, the group leader stated that any travel professional must be able to book into the group, and they expect to receive free stateroom, or they will work with a different travel professional. I walked away from this particular group. What is the best way to address the issue of other agents booking into your group space? Okay, so let me reread this again. That stated that any travel professional must be able to book into the group. So I guess I'm a little confused. So somebody wants you to put a group together, but to allow other agents to also sell into the group. I think that's what I'm hearing. So you put it together, and not only do they need to travel free, but they also need to have other agents book in. Am I summarizing that right, Gina? Yes. All right. And by the way, Lena says, thank you. You are very welcome. Lena says, I do believe my host is okay with this. Cool. Linda says, thanks. And Gina just confirmed what I just said. So here's what I would say. First of all, you know, if you have a group leader coming to you and saying, I demand a free room, that means obviously they've either done it before and they've gotten the free room. You need to find out the history here. Very important. Or they've done it before and the travel agent spilled the beans. The travel agent made the big, terrible, careless mistake of telling a group leader, oh, I get torque conductors. Oh, what's a torque conductor? Well, that's when we sell a certain amount of cabins and there's a freebie and I give it to you. It's none of their business. So basically, it's possible an agent before ruined it so they understand what a TC is and how it's earned. Or maybe it was totally cool. Maybe they did it before and it was part of an incentive program and they earned it. They earned it. Or maybe the travel agent was a little weak and they guaranteed it. Now listen to me carefully, friends. I said this at the beginning of the show. I don't think you should ever, ever, ever be guaranteeing a freebie. Ever. Ever. Because what if it collapses? What if it falls apart? Guess who's holding the bag? You are. You're paying for a free trip that they didn't earn. And once they know it's guaranteed, friends, how hard are they going to work on promoting the group, on doing the marketing, on being the great influencer? They don't need to. They're going free. So here's the deal. And I admire the fact that you were strong enough to walk away. However, you say, and I'm joking around, you say, come sit down. Let's talk about this. Tell me about what you've done in the past. So get the histories to understand how it worked in the past. Number two, you can be bold and say, I'm sure we can work this out where you can travel free because we both want to see this group a success. We want you to go. And I will lay out a wonderful incentive where based on sales, you can go free. And if they turn around and they say to you, no, 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 I need it guaranteed, then watch this. You go, I gotta go. Then you can walk away because that's just not right. You just don't ever do that because you're going to get burned, especially if there's last-minute cancellations and let's say you missed the TC and now it's coming out of your pocket. And you guys know this. We've talked about this ad nauseum that nothing is ever free. It's never free. There's always port tax. There's always gratuities. If it's a big cruise line, then it's got to be NCCFs, right? So if they're not willing to have skin in the game and take on some risk, the answer is no. Gotta go. And you can say, listen. And by the way, the smarty pants travel group leader out there may have heard in the past. It's the 16th is free, sell 15 people, 8 cabins, and it's 1 berth free. They may know that. But what if you use your gap points? Listen to me, everybody. What if you use your amenity points where you bargain that down? So it's actually 1 for 10, a 10th is free. Why would you tell that to your client? It's none of their business. And you can still, if they already know about the 115, base it on that if you feel comfortable doing it. And you can show them, listen, if we sell the 8 cabins, well, then 1 person. But you got to cover your butt ski for all the other extras because you don't get that from the cruise line. River cruising is different. Doesn't include gratuities, but there's no NCCFs. But there is port tax. You got to cover. So that's what I would do. Now, when it comes, one more thing, to having other travel agents book in, that's fine. As long as you own the group, as long as you have the group agreement letter signed that you are the one and only keeper of this group. You are the manager of this group. Period. End of sentence. And that any other travel agents who want to sell into the group have to go through you, not direct. They must go through you. And then you're going to have to figure out on your calculations, your spreadsheet, how much commission you can pay. Because then, yeah, exactly. I know it sounds, but now you're going to be the supplier, in effect. You're going to pay that travel agent commission for booking into your group. It gets a little dangerous here because if you get a sharp, hottie pants travel agent there who says, I'm just going to take out space and I'll book on the same group, the same cruise, same hotel. That's a problem because then those people cannot attend your events. They're not part of the group, and the group leader doesn't get credit, right? So it gets a little ugly, gets a little messy. But friends, you're professionals. Take control of the booking. Show them you're the pros. Don't let them walk on you. Don't let them step on you. Don't let them make demands and take advantage of you, or else you just say goodbye. Listen, I'll end it on this. Let it be somebody else's headache. Let it be somebody else's nightmare, not you, not one of my boot campers. I'm not going to let that happen to you. What else we got here? Gina says the history is if they do this annually, the travel professional in the past have offered them TC and marked up the cruise price $200 per person for the off-the-shelf price. Okay, so they're well aware, they know it, but if that's the case, if they're used to getting that, that's great. But it must be an outlined, structured program of when they earn it, and that it's not even rewarded until you almost have to do it up till the day of departure. Because what if you're really close? I've heard situations like this for real, where there's a last-minute cancellation, and you miss the TC. So it's suddenly not free, both berths, maybe one is. Protect yourself. CYA. Gina, I hope that helps. All right, I want to get back to this here. Hi, Cynthia, you still here? Now, I'm just gonna say this. You know, I met some wonderful people at the summit that I did, and so an agent I met here had a great idea to do a type of an exercise cruise. So I'm just going to leave it at that. Now, so I assume that you, the agent, that's your passion. You understand this kind of exercise program, and that you feel it would be fun to go away and do it. So the first thing I would tell you to do is make sure that it's in your love circle. You know the talk. You're not just picking it because you think it's profitable, but because you do it, you practice it. And then I would say, what circles are you in? Are you already in the community where there is a leader of that exercise program? Big leader with a big list. Because unless you have a big list, unless you know where to talk to hundreds or thousands and thousands of these people who really, really dig this practice, you don't want to spend money on advertising. You just don't. So you either got to find that leader, or you're going to find a club, an organization, because you're asking people, remember, when it comes to an affinity group, the affinity has to be very strong. You're asking people to go away with people they wouldn't normally have traveled with, to a destination maybe they've never been to before, didn't really want to go to, not on their bucket list, to go away at a time they may not normally be going away, to potentially leave their family behind, but with an exercise type group, maybe the family can come, which would be great. You're asking a lot of somebody to do this. So there has to be an extremely compelling reason why they need to go do this kind of exercise away. What's the unique selling proposition, Heisen? What's the USP? Why, if I do this exercise program, like I'm just going to give you an example. I enjoy doing yoga. My wife and I, we love it. Kimberly's going to take it to the nth degree because she eventually wants to become an instructor. But so she actually runs a lot of our sessions that we do together, but we really love it. To get me to go on a yoga a trip or on a cruise, whatever, it's got to be something fun, man. Really crazy. Like, where will I do the yoga? Who will teach me the yoga? What other benefits, what other opportunities will there be? Why should I spend all this money to do yoga there when I could do it at the gym that I belong to, or right upstairs when, you know, turn on YouTube and do a yoga class, for instance? So it's got to be really compelling. You need to be part of a big community, and unless you are the instructor or the heavy influencer, you need to find a heavy influencer or put together a very remarkable program so that you can do that practice in a very special place. It's like, wow, how cool. I want to do that. So I just wanted to touch on that. I don't know if anybody here has done, in boot campers who've done things like that, where it's an exercise top program, because, you know, Richard Simmons had it, man. He would sell out the ship. He did, right? He did full ship charters, I believe, for years. Not recent, but for years, to do his exercise stuff. So this is a big business. It can be done, but you need the right ingredients and the right affinity. Tell me, Hyacinth, if you're on, if you're here, and if you've given any more thought to that. Gina, you are very welcome. All right, next thing I want to talk about is yes, okay, so I am going to go to one slide. Hold on one second. One slide, I want to make sure you guys don't miss this. I've got Bonnie Raska. She's coming on August 24th. She's going to be my guest. And whenever I have a special expert guest in, I open it up to the entire industry. Of course, I want to give people out there a little taste of group sales boot camp because I want them to join boot camp. right? This is my product. This is what I sell. It's also my passion. I want to help agents take their business from good to great. So Bonnie, you guys, if you've been in the business a couple of years, you know Bonnie. She was with Travel Guard forever. She is the travel agent's biggest friend, best advocate. She's coming on the show, and we're going to answer everything insurance, whether it's travel insurance, medical insurance, or agency insurance, business insurance. I think it's going to be a golden opportunity. If you guys attended the LinkedIn special that I did with Teddy Burris, it was phenomenal. I learned so much, and I'm going to learn a lot from Bonnie. So I love bringing in experts who know significantly more than me in areas of specialty that we all need to know. So make sure you sign up for that. All right, let's see if there's anything else here. Okay, let me move on now. I got that. Hyacinth. Okay, let's talk about escorting. How many of you, just let me know who here has had an experience where you wish you had been on that trip and you didn't escort? I'm curious. Just let me know. If anybody on right now, type in and just, did you realize that, man, I should have been on that trip? Because I think it's so easy for us to say, got it booked, it's done, they're off and running, I can move on to my next piece of business, but I'm going to lose sleep while they're away. I hope the room is ready. I hope the coffee is set up on time. I hope that stage is ready. And friends, I've worked on the cruise line side. I have personally escorted tons of, in my case, travel agent fam trips. And as the escort, you know, and also being on the other side of the fence, I know what goes on, especially on board cruise ships, versus hotels. Hotels typically don't change rooms and venues. But cruise lines do, right? Who here has had that experience? So, you know, if you're not there, some things, plural, will go wrong. In my personal experience with my partial ship charter river cruise, I was afraid that people were going to hang all over me. Everyone wanted to be with me and do stuff with me and this kind of stuff. And you know. And because it was a river cruise, I did not need to set up a hospitality desk. And this was also friends and family, and it was small enough where everybody saw me all the time. But I certainly recommend you set up a hospitality desk and tell people the hours you'll be there, because you're going to need downtime for yourself. You especially for a bigger, more complex group. You're going to be exhausted. This is no picnic. It's no vacation. And you can tell that to your client when they say, I'm not paying for you to go. They say, well, this is not a vacation for me. I'm working to make sure you have a good time, and I'm going to make sure nothing goes wrong, because your mission is to stay a step ahead and behind the scenes. So with my river cruise, I was pleased and surprised that no, that wasn't the case. But they did have a lot of questions along the way. And the most important thing I did, and I know Hans, you want me to talk about this, was because I was going with them, I set expectations for when we got there. That's one of the most important things an escort must do, is get to know the people, set expectations before you show up. So if you're live and you guys can meet at a church or the synagogue or at a Panera Bread, meet them, shake hands, say, hey, I'm going with you and I'm there to work. I want to make sure you have a good time. And you're going to tell them the hours of your hospitality, and you're going to tell them expectations of that you're going to go into that room to make sure, and tell them, in your experience, sometimes things change. Friends, things change, but I'm going to be there to make sure that whatever changes will be seamless and easy. But what I did for my river cruise was I went through the day-by-day itinerary. I made sure I opened it up and encouraged Q&A. And I brought up every possible thing that could happen that I'm going to handle, and how to communicate with me on the ship, how to reach me, especially medical stuff. Remember, you guys, those of you in boot camp, I gave you a sample of the medical questionnaire I sent out that was not required but encouraged for all of my travelers to complete in secrecy, of course. And gosh forbid if something should happen to them, You know, we know what meds to give them, what meds not if they have an allergic reaction. You know, stuff like that to set up in advance. But there's things like the meet and greet. There's things like knowing everybody's air schedule. Even if you didn't book the air, you need to get a spreadsheet so you know when everyone takes off, their connection cities, when they're arriving, and I sure hope you built into the package transfers. Or can you be at the airport? Let's say you have a cruise leaving from Miami. You spend the day at Miami welcoming people in. Wow, that's pretty darn awesome. You get down to the ship a day before and you make arrangements with the ship that you can board early. Yes, you can do that if it's prearranged. Board the ship early when those other guests are disembarking. You get on early, meet with the group leader, see what has changed, and run to the day by day. Run to the day by day. I did this. As soon as I got on board, we had a private dinner. Hans, to your point, again, using an example, I set up a private dinner at chef's table, which is the restaurant, the stern of the ship on the AMA cruise ships. And I sat down with the group, the cruise manager. We went through that to make sure seating was right, that they had the birthday cake for my mom, that on day 2 they had the birthday cake for Mark, that we had all these things. There was a lot of little things because we even had a private luncheon that I set up in Strasbourg just to make sure that they knew we're not going to be back for lunch. 27 people, take it off. They're all coming to lunch with me. I let them know so they weren't freaking out. Where are they? Okay, so let me stop talking for a second before I keep going because I can talk about that all day long. Hello, Lynn is in the house. All right. Mickey says, so this was answering to the question, have you had groups that you wish you had escorted? Lynn says yes. Mickey said, yes, I do, but at the same time, they were difficult clients who caused their own drama. I hear you. And while it would have been entirely uncomfortable and unpleasant probably to travel with them, you know, the question is from a business perspective. And I don't know, Mickey. Should you have been there? Could you have been there? What could have been avoided? And I know there's some people, especially high drama people, man, I would definitely want to be there and make sure I leave plenty of extra time for me to disappear so that I would be able to have a little cocktail at the end of the day to relax. Mickey said these folks wanted to have a vow renewal without paying for it. They tried to just take over the beach. So one of the key questions, Mickey, is the juice worth the squeeze? And I don't know if you've answered this question. Would you ever do business with them again? Was it a nightmare? Did they just cause too much drama, too much problems, and just drove you crazy? And these are just the nature of this kind of, I don't know, these kind of people, this kind of group, where let it be someone else's nightmare. I hear loud and clear. Not everybody is pleasant to do business with. Hans says, thanks so much, Stuart. You bet. You bet. All right, so only a couple of you guys, Lynn and Mickey, had it. So my question is this. Who here, just tell me honestly, who here is afraid to escort? Afraid meaning you're afraid to build yourself into the package. You're afraid because if you're out of the office for a week, you're not going to make money. You're afraid because you're not going to know what to do when you get there. You know, what are the fears? What's the stress point around it? Because most of you guys are already doing groups. You've been doing groups. And maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm making a mistake here. Maybe the rest of you have been successfully escorting the groups and making money doing it. Not losing money. Losing money meaning you're not getting paid to do that, and you're also out of the office for a week. You're losing twice, big time. I'm just curious because we can do a lot of focus on this and talk about it. Now in boot camp, Tina, to your point, being a newbie, you'll have to wait for week 4. There you can download a PDF with 92 great escorting tips. What all my years, not only doing it, but watching the best, most successful group producers in the industry, I learned what they did to be successful at it. And man, talk about getting loyal clients, because one of the greatest things you can do too is getting people to sign up for the next trip. So before you And if you can ask agents this question, who are successful group producers, among the reasons of just being there for the people, putting out little fires, making sure everything is smooth, getting to know the people, shaking hands, hugging people, kissing the babies, whatever, you have already set up next year's trip. And you're going to start making presentations talking about it, and you're going to take a $50 fully refundable deposit because people are in it, they're having fun. It's called that bandwagon approach. You're getting them striking while the iron is hot. The level of buy-in is significantly higher. Now you're asking me, Hans, you're probably saying, well, did you sell the next River Cruise group for your family and friends? And the answer is no. You remember, I don't do that for a business. I did that for fun. And my wife and I have been talking long and hard about it, but we've got so much going on in our lives right now that we just couldn't start planning. And we like planning that kind of stuff well in advance. And everyone came up to us and said, where are we going next? We're like, we don't know. So maybe that was our fault, but to be honest with you, that just wasn't our mission, our agenda. And perhaps we'll do something again in the future, but we didn't pre-sell, start taking deposits there, which is a great thing to do. Mickey says those are repeat guests. So it was surprising they did crazy things on the beach. Lena says, my goal is to get in a situation where I organize and escort enough groups per year, so that's all I do. And that's a great goal. What a wonderful goal. Yeah, you're the manager, you help bring them in, you make friends with the group and the group leader, you go escort, you have as a host, you have people back a house or staff or independent contracts, whatever, helping you with back a house stuff, but you get out there. And so the beautiful part is, Lena, is that it's hard work. You know that. It's very hard work, but it's also highly rewarding. You can find opportunities to enjoy it, meeting new people, traveling the world. Right? And Judy says, Stuart, I have escorted. We've got no time left. All right, 1 minute. Here we go. This is the last word from Judy. Stuart, I have escorted a senior bus trip, but now I'm escorting my group to Alaska in 2018. Yay! I almost choked myself with the cord. That's great, Judy. A little nervous about that. Most of my clients are ready to make sure all goes well. And I get it. It's good that you're a little bit nervous, Judy. Before I do a big speech, I get a little nervous. That's good. Gets the adrenaline flowing so you don't miss anything. Judy, have you downloaded that document, 92 Ways to Escort Like a Pro? Because, man, there's going to be stuff you're going to say, I'm doing it. No, I didn't know I could do that. And you got it. You got to keep us in the loop. I'm very excited for you that you're escorting